Okay, I'm going to assume my mic is working. Let's give it a quick test, shall we? Okay. All right. Mic set up. Let's wait for some people to join in case you're watching it back. Got one person just come through. I wonder who that might be. Good evening. Is that Jasmine? Jasmine Cope, if I pronounce that correctly. Good evening to you. How's your Friday going? I sound like Umar, IFL Umar. How's your Tuesday going? That was it, wasn't it? Friday, Tuesday. Umar, IFL Umar. With his watch. It's been a minute since I watched any Tyan Booth. Joseph King. Hello, my friends. Good to have you here. How you doing? How's your Friday going? It's good that you could join the chat. This is just going to be a casual live stream. Obviously, there's boxing on the weekend. We can talk about that. You know, there are still some good fights on the horizon, and let's not be all doom and gloom. But you know, I wanna talk to you guys. I wanna hang out. So anything goes. Let's just enjoy the Friday evening. We've got 9 people in the chat. It's jumping up. This is good stuff. This might be a busy one for once. I won't just be talking to 2 or 3 people. All right, so Jasmine Cope. So gutted about Fury, Usyk. Yeah, look, it's a shame. It's not surprising when you think about it, which is, you know, it's a bit of a damning indictment, but that's the case. You know, you can probably see a couple of my live streams from the end of last year, and G-Man was asking me. I'm pretty sure I was on a stream with G-Man, or at least he was in the chat, and we were talking, and people were asking me like, "Okay, Outmatch, on a real one now. Do you actually think the fight's going to happen?" And I thought it would. I thought, you know, Tyson Fury versus Oleksandr Usyk, March 2023. It just sounds legit. It sounds like it could very well happen. And, you know, it seemed like it was going to happen. But after a while, it was just like, you know what? Tyson Fury has no intention of fighting Oleksandr Usyk and probably never did. And I don't want to spend too much time on it because I see G-Man's in the house. G-Man and Hatman have been they've been on point with this. That's why I haven't really done any videos, just because I don't feel like I can really add anything. So, you know, credit to Hatman and G-Man saying it how it is, which, to be honest, really is quite clear. I was talking to Hatman, you know, just a couple of hours ago, and I said that, in my opinion, anyone who's making excuses for Tyson Fury at this point, they're a write-off in my book. There's just too much evidence going against Fury to back him up. And look at his track record as well. And so 3 years on the trot, Tyson Fury has messed people about. Because if you look at 2021, there was the whole, will the Joshua fight happen? And people were getting hyped up for it, hyped up. I was one of the few people saying, not to like pat myself on the back, but I just didn't sense it would happen. I was saying that the Joshua Fury fight wouldn't happen in 2021 because you guys probably remember August 2021 was, you know, it seemed like it was going to happen. And you have to imagine that in the background, Tyson Fury knew exactly that he was heading towards a third fight with Deontay Wilder. That happened. Got to 2022, he could have fought Usyk, but instead insisted on having a tune-up. And then we all know the scandal that was Derek Chisora on a pay-per-view, 30 quid. And you can even look at one of my videos. I was actually very lenient. I went so easy on Tyson Fury because I said, you know what? If he has this Derek Chisora fight, which as a pay-per-view and as a world title defense is unacceptable. But if he goes on to fight Usyk in the first quarter of 2023, maybe it's acceptable. Like, because we get what we want eventually, but we haven't even gotten that. So, you know what? For the meantime, I think I'm just going to wash my hands with Tyson Fury. Fantastic fighter, but he's making a mug of boxing and making a mug of boxing fans. And it seems like that's what so many people are trying to do these days. So many scandals in boxing. So many times we don't get what we want. And a lot of the time, people are just trying to make fools out of boxing fans by telling blatant lies and being just so dishonest, lying through their teeth. So look, you know what? I'm going to nip it in the bud there. I've said my bit. Let's get into the chat. Let's talk. Joseph King says, "Let's all be little fake mates." Yeah, exactly. Talk about fakes. Plenty of fakes in boxing, man. I tell you that. Plenty of fakes in life. Jordan Perry, hi mate. Hope you're well. Newly subscribed. It's got your YouTube from when you've been on with G-Man. Jordan Perry, thank you very much, my friend. It's good to have you here. I hope you're enjoying the content. It's a bit of a mixed bag. You know, I talk about some things that, I don't know, a little bit niche, but it's good to have you here. I really appreciate that. And I hope you can hang about for the live stream. We're just going to really kick back and hopefully have a laugh and try and keep spirits high. Eddie loves Sky Nicholson Hearn. I'm a happy man. Hey, you know what? Actually, I'm not sure about that. Eddie Hearn hasn't looked too happy recently. He's lost the cheeky, chappy twinkle in his eye he used to have. Z's thoughts. Who is the most influential YouTube boxing channel? That's a tough one. Might have to get back to that. I just realized I'm not even showing people's comments. Yeah, we got G-Man in the house. It says, salute to Outmatch and hit the like button, lads. Yeah, if you could do that, you know, that helps out greatly. We've got 15 people in the chat, which I think it's not a record, but it's the highest I've had for a while. So if you guys could hit the like button and yeah, that would really help me out. It's good to have you guys here, and I hope everyone can hang about for a bit. But yeah, G-Man, how you doing? It's been a while since I dropped you a message or anything. Things okay? Will you still be coming over next week? Is that still got the green light? Iron Fist, Fury didn't want the fight to happen as much. Yeah, you can't really dispute that. I don't think you can. There's any evidence to say otherwise. So you know what? Not a truer word spoken. Jasmine Cope, I agree to high risk for Fury. That's what it is. Yeah, you know, I don't think Tyson Fury's scared of Oleksandr Usyk. I don't think Tyson Fury's scared of any fighter, but he's quite calculated and also very devious and dishonest. And he clearly perceives Oleksandr Usyk as a real threat and is looking to play the waiting game. You know, probably let Usyk go in there with Dubois or Joyce or Hrgovic and get roughed up a little bit, take a few knocks, and then see if he gets softened up. So, yeah, it's unfortunate. And look, I guess we have to kind of have an eye on the future. What do you guys make of fights between Usyk and Dubois, Joyce, Hrgovic? Personally, I think Usyk beats them all. But I could understand how they could potentially be, you know, rough fights, damaging fights that maybe do take a little bit out of him. But interesting fights in their own right. I'd say that Daniel Dubois, I don't want to say it's a mismatch, but I do not give Dubois much of a chance. I reckon he might get his other eye snatched, to be honest. I reckon Usyk might get that other eye. G-Man says it's like being back in 2020 when dealing with Fury fanboys. Yeah, although I must say that Fury fanboys seem to be dwindling. I think even the densest, most rabid Fury fanboys have seen the light a little bit, and they've realised that their deity in the Gypsy Dosser maybe isn't the Spartan warrior that he made himself out to be. Jordan Perry, my predictions for the weekend are Collie inside 3 rounds, Plant and points. Not sure about Flatley versus Heaney. Okay. Yes. A Collie, 3 rounds. You know what? 3 rounds, I think that's the maximum. 3 rounds tops. I had a little bit of a look at David Light. How is this guy? What is it? Is he a WBO mandatory? Forgive my ignorance, but he looked shocking. He looked like I saw him do a bit of training. I saw a couple of his fights, and I was like, the first thing that came into my head was Weekend Warrior. This guy looks like you'd find him at your local boxer size class. And I don't mean that, I don't say that to be disrespectful. I'm just, there are levels to this. And I'm just thinking this guy's going in against a colleague who, for all his faults, can bang. Like, he's got serious power. This is going to be, it's going to be a disaster. So yeah, I think it's going to be an easy win for a collie. If a collie lost, I'd be, that would turn my world upside down. That would just be so surreal if someone the caliber of David Light beat a collie. Boy, Plant on points. That's an interesting one. G-Man probably knows this. I've been favouring Benavidez a fair bit, but the closer the fight gets, I'm just wondering, like, does Plant have his number? From a stylistic point of view, I've never really been that impressed with either of them from like, oh, I think they're the best in their division. But I do think they are very capable fighters with some good strengths. Caleb Plant, I think he's good at a certain level. You can see the video I did on my like way back for the Canelo fight. I think I actually picked Canelo to beat Plant like a round before he actually did. So I was fairly confident that Canelo would win. And it was just based on the assessment of Caleb Plant. He has this very smooth, athletic style, but there isn't much substance in terms of the technique. He just doesn't have that kind of technical diversity that you see with like legit elite level fighters. But he's got good athleticism. He's you guys know I'm the biomechanics guy. I like to talk about technique and movement quality and that kind of stuff, especially pertaining to boxing. And I just never saw anything special with him, which is a bit of a shame because I felt like if he was a bit more developed technically, he'd be, a handful because he clearly is a very gifted athlete. If you look at the balance, the coordination, the smoothness, the speed, I think the power is lacking because of his technique. I mean, he can still hurt guys. He took out Anthony Durrell. You'd want to see. I feel like right now with his current style, his current like technical arsenal, his ceiling isn't as high as it should be. Benavidez, on the other hand, I look at him and I feel like he's got a bit more of a wily, crafty style, a few more wrinkles to his game. But I don't know, I've always found Benavidez to be a little bit one-paced, maybe just lacking that sharpness. He has that kind of naturally relaxed feel to him where he just doesn't, I don't know, there's like a certain sharpness that he's maybe missing. But he's a big guy. He can throw a lot of shots and he throws his shots quite well. You know what? When was it? I'm trying to remember which undercard it was. When there was David Benavidez versus what's his face? Canadian guy, French name, David Lemieux. I picked. I didn't do a video on it, but I picked Benavidez to win in the first 3 rounds. You know, that was just my general sense because, yeah, even though Lemieux's a big puncher, he's vulnerable. And someone like Benavidez, not only does he tower over him, but he's a decent finisher. Like if he gets Lemieux hurt, he'll go for it and, you know, take him out. And I really kicked myself because I'm not really a betting person. Because whenever I do bet, I mess up like fairly big. But whenever I don't, I'm usually or sometimes spot on. And I remember the odds for Benavidez to win inside 3 rounds. It was so crazy. They must have been like nearly 20-1 or something. They were massive odds. And I didn't put a bet on. And obviously he got David Lemieux out of there in 3. And I was really kicking myself. But yeah, regarding Benavidez versus Plant, I might be edging towards Plant, maybe like 55-45. I don't know. But maybe one of you guys can sway me. What do you guys think? Um, okay. Gus with a Hulk Hogan. Fury is not a fantastic fighter. He's overrated and he ducks everyone. He defended his title against Free Bums. I think that's a bit harsh. Tyson Fury is a good fighter. He's got a lot of good ability. He's got some elite level attributes. But like most fighters, every fighter to some degree is overrated. And overrated doesn't mean bad. It just means certain people go overboard. And look, Tyson Fury fought Vlad, fought Wilder 3 times, fought Dylan White. I give him credit for those wins. As frustrating as he can be, those are good wins. But, you know, it's an insult to the fighters of yesteryear to say that Tyson Fury is even close to being the greatest heavyweight of all time. Like, that is such a boxing casual comment to make. That's such a normie thing to say. But it's been said so much recently, and it just, you know, I just shake my head at it, honestly. Iron Fist says, I really wonder why Fury wasted 1.5 years of his prime, early 2020 and late 2021, doing absolutely nothing. I know the Wilder arbitration, but surely he could have fought someone else before him. I don't know, but, you know, once again, if you look at the fighters of yesteryear, they weren't fighting twice a year. They were fighting regularly. And yeah, look, you don't have to do everything that the old school fighters did because the world was a different place then. Forget about boxing. The world was different then. But, you know, there's a certain standard I think champions should be held to because you have the privilege of calling yourself a champion. Yeah, you worked to get there, but, you know, you are, it's still a privilege to be in that position to some degree. You know, if you look at Jamal Charlo, he's been out of the ring for nearly 2 years. And he's still champion? Nah, strip him now. That can't run. So yeah, look, Fury's a strange one, man. And I don't know. I don't want to like focus on the past too much. We've got to keep on looking forward. There's still fun to be had. There's still good nights of boxing, but yeah, we can talk about this till we're blue, till we're blue in the face. We just got to roll with it, I suppose. Joseph King, serious question: is there any benefit to having 3 belts as opposed to 1? Because right now, all it seems to mean are more mandatories. Well, yeah, there's obviously that. That's the burden. You know, you got to pay the cost to be the boss, kind of thing. But at the same time, rational, objective people usually going to see you as the consensus best. You know, like, okay, you haven't fought the other champion, but you know, you got 3 of the belts. You have a larger portion of the title in that particular division. However, it does depend on the context because, you know, imagine if you, I don't know, like sometimes you can pick up easy titles, depending on like, I don't know, maybe the fighter before you actually has a fluke win and ends up being unified champion, and then, you know, you come along and beat him, and all of a sudden you inherit that, you know, that kind of context. But if you look at Usyk, you know, he went up to heavyweight, had a couple of warm-up fights in Chaz Witherspoon and Derek Chisora, and fought AJ. But then, okay, you say, oh, he only had that one win over AJ and became unified champion, which is still a good win when you consider he went to London in front of 70,000 fans, beat AJ, beat him twice, but especially that first time, like he really left nothing down to chance. But AJ himself went on that kind of journey of unifying the belts because he only beat Charles Martin for the IBF, but then defended against Dominic Brazil and Eric Molina, who were perfectly acceptable opponents for Deontay Wilder in many people's eyes. So why not AJ? And then unified against Klitschko, defended, unified the WBO against Joseph Parker. So you can start to see how Joshua had a bit more of a longer route to inheriting those belts. And so when Usyk come along and beat him, it's like it means something because it's not like Joshua got those belts easily. So hey, we can talk all about that and break it down. Jasmine Cope, his latest video boils my blood. Yeah, I agree. I was saying to Hatman how it really, really got under my skin. And I'm a positive guy. I like to stay upbeat and I don't like things to get to me. But I could see the dishonesty in Tyson Fury's eyes. And I said, he's saying all this nonsense, look into the camera. And I look into his eyes and I'm like, you don't even believe this. You know that's cap. Tyson Fury is capping. And as the kids say, like that's just straight up, that's what it is. How do I see AJ versus Franklin going? You know what? I'm interested. I've said it before. That fight, it interests me without exciting me. I think AJ will get the job done. I don't think it will be really that close. Initially, I was kind of thinking, you know what? I could see how this potentially could be like the Takam fight where AJ looks a bit sluggish. But you know what? Franklin's a good fighter. Franklin's not a chump, but I think he will be there for Joshua to hit. I think as soon as Joshua kind of sees that Franklin only has so many things he can do, he'll probably, AJ will get the time in. What I find most interesting though is that I'm focusing on any stylistic differences because it hasn't been very long, this working relationship between AJ and Derek James, but excuse me, hasn't been a very long time for it to develop. But I'll still be looking to see if there are any differences in AJ's style, but also his mindset as well. I think a lot hinges on how is Joshua feeling in terms of his confidence and so on. However, I've just been looking at, whenever there's an AJ interview, and I must say, like, it's quite refreshing because, I give AJ credit for his achievements, just like any fighter. But one thing I must say is that AJ is a person, at least how he comes across in the public eye, in his interviews. I couldn't stand it. Like, I just couldn't watch his interviews. They were just too much, like too much of a chore, too cringy. Like the things he'd say, the way he'd say, he always had this weird cryptic way of answering very simple questions. Whereas now he's much more direct. And that might seem like not much to people, but I take it as, AJ's dispensing with the pleasantries and trying to come across as agreeable and whatnot. I think he's really just speaking his mind, and hopefully that reflects itself in his boxing style. And he performs in a way that reflects what's on his mind, because the biggest criticism that people had of him in the Usyk fights was that he was too reserved. He fought within himself too much. And I agree. Not that it was entirely that. You have to give credit to Usyk because he fantastic technical and tactical performance. But yeah, put that aside. I think AJ will get it done. I'm thinking round 5, something like that. But we'll see. Maybe I'll do a bit more of a deeper study. But this is a big step up for Franklin. AJ, I know some people see him as a bit flat and maybe down and out, but I think this version of AJ certainly is better than the version of Dylan White that Franklin fought. And I thought Dylan White won that fight. I don't have an issue with people saying that Franklin won it, but I thought White did enough. But yeah, it's interesting. We'll see. I genuinely believe if Fury took Joshua's path of fights, he will not be undefeated. Yeah, maybe. Styles make fights. I definitely say that Joshua had a tougher road at title level, world level. Um, with Fury, there was obviously a lot of inactivity and stuff like that. But you know, if you look at some of the best wins on Joshua's resume, uh, or the highest profile names, you've got Klitschko, whereas uh, Fury beat Klitschko quite easily. Um, who else? I don't know. Andy Ruiz. Uh, I wouldn't. I'd probably pick Tyson Fury to beat Andy Ruiz. Um, Alexander Povetkin, probably the same. Oleksandr Usyk, who Tyson Fury isn't particularly keen on fighting. Tyson Fury isn't particularly keen on fighting him. You guys, you can go back, you can check, but for a while I've predicted that Usyk actually beats Tyson Fury, even before this whole controversy even started. So this is not me being reactionary and saying, oh, Tyson Fury's a duck and Usyk would have been beating him anyway. Like, I'm not saying that now. I actually do think Usyk would beats him. I don't say that with 100% confidence. Of course not. It's a very even matchup, but stylistically, I see how Usyk can do it, and consider the momentum and Tyson Fury. There's a fair bit of smoke and mirrors, I want to say, because 3 fights against Wilder. Tyson Fury impressed me a lot in all 3 fights, but Usyk is it's a different kind of task at hand. You know, um, you need certain strengths to deal with someone like Usyk. That you need different strengths to deal with someone like Wilder. You can't really compare them. You can't say, oh well, Wilder's the biggest puncher in the division, and Tyson Fury went, however many rounds of him across 3 fights. That means Tyson Fury beats Usyk. Nah, that maths doesn't work. So, um, yeah, I get what you're saying, Joseph, and I certainly agree that Joshua had a harder path. And if you, I think Joshua certainly has a much stronger resume than Tyson Fury, but stylistically, I don't really see anyone on Joshua's resume who would beat Tyson Fury other than Alexander Usyk. Um, that's just me going off of memory, though. But I think the moral of the story is Joshua's taken many more risks than Tyson Fury. And that's what happens when you take risks. You lose. It's a numbers game. It's probability. It's going to happen sooner or later. You're going to come across someone or a couple of guys who just have your number, or they can beat you on that particular night. That's why a loss isn't a damning indictment. It happens. Like, get over it. This is the leftover of the Mayweather era. That byproduct of, oh, you've lost, no good. No, it doesn't work like that. So Muhammad Ali, who's seen as not only one of the greatest fighters of all time in boxing, but one of the greatest athletes of all time, he had, a handful of losses, like bad losses as well. Like, but is he any less of a fighter? Absolutely not. If anything, he gets more credit because people acknowledge that he took on all comers. So it's one of those things. It's frustrating, but it's the mindset, it's the attitude in boxing. Oh, sorry, I'm getting up Iron Fist messages, not even to me. G-Man says, I'll text you about it next week. Short answer, yes. We're still on. Cool. Yeah, I'm a little bit busy next week on the weekend, but we'll talk about it. I'll make time throughout the week. That's no problem. Um, uh, Jordan Perry, think we'll see Fury versus Ruiz next. You know what? I don't know. I doubt it. I think, call me crazy, but I think there might be a greater chance that we see Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou. As crazy as that sound, I think that fight happens before the Ruiz fight. And that's assuming that, that fight wouldn't be massively boycotted. And I don't know. I don't even really want to think about it, to be honest. We got Mad Chad Sports Tavern. Mad Chad's good to have you here, my friend. Um, Joseph King. Fury's not scared of the fighter, he's scared of losing his own. Yeah, exactly. That's it. That's exactly it. Usyk and Joyce is the toughest fight, bar Fury. Usyk and Joyce is the toughest fight. Do you mean for Fury? Mad Chad says Usyk pound for pound fighter on earth, beats all heavyweights. I'm not sure about that. If you want to have Usyk as the best fighter in the division, as the best pound for pound fighter, whatever that is, pound for pound is excuse me, pound for pound is a very difficult thing to pin down. But Usyk beating all heavyweights, I don't see it. Just because, stylistically, I think he's very difficult to beat, especially for a lot of these heavyweights who are quite big. But Father Time is undefeated, and Usyk is, I think he's one of the older guys in the division. He's in like 35, and he has a style that I don't think is going to lend itself very well to, having old legs and not having the same energy levels. Because the thing is, Usyk is a fantastic technician, and you can always rely on technique, but he's not just like a pure technician. He's not like, say, an Andre Ward, who wasn't really that special of an athlete. He was decent as an athlete, but he had to rely a lot on tactics and technique and making as few mistakes as possible, and obviously quite a bit of cheating, which is very frustrating. But Usyk, he's one of those fighters who's technically brilliant, but a lot of that technique is upheld by his athleticism. And as soon as that athleticism starts to wane a little bit, he's going to be a bit easier to get your hands on. So that's just what I suspect anyway, like looking at his style and whatnot. WBA versus WBA and IBF, I believe, didn't do Golovkin justice. How many other notable champions held the titles longer without defending them? I'm not really too sure about what's gone on in that situation, and hence I didn't make any videos about it, just because I wasn't sure about the ins and outs. So I can't really comment on it, to be honest. I know you do get inconsistencies. I'm not going to disagree with that. You do definitely get inconsistencies between the treatment that certain governing bodies, sanctioning bodies give fighters. I fully get that. But yeah, it was a bit strange to see, okay, Golovkin's just dropped his belts. It seems like retirement's is going to be the next move for him, unless it's like a mega fight. But I can't really think of what fight that could be, to be honest. Greedy yellow belly is ducking a middleweight. Yeah, exactly. All this nonsense about, oh, he's just a middleweight, this gappy tooth rabbit, all that stuff. Okay, all right, Tyson, sure. Yeah, you keep talking, Tyson. Jordan Perry says, "Are you watching Lyndon Arthur later?" You know what? Am I watching Lyndon Arthur? That's a hard question. I hate. Oh no, I'm not going to be sarcastic. No, I probably won't. If it's like a real event, if that makes it, like if Lyndon Arthur gets flattened or something, I'll probably watch it back. But I'm not going to tune in, to be honest. I wasn't going to tune in anyway. But at least there was a bit more intrigue because he was fighting like a guy from Argentina or something. Like if you're fighting an unknown Argentine fighter, it could be thrills and spills. But he's dropped out and he's now fighting someone. I don't know, what's it, Scott something? Real dud fight. And Lyndon Arthur is a strange one, I think. I don't know where his career's going. But you know what? If it's worth watching back, I'll watch it back. But I probably won't watch it live. I'll say that. Pudding Jim 8. Good to have you here, Pudding Jim. I've actually been seeing you, I must say, when I'm scrolling through my feed, and I see like IFL posts and stuff like that. I see you in the comments, Pudding Jim, leaving your comments. So I see you. I say that. A collie will only punch harder with the link up with Sugar Hill. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. A collie already punches very hard, so to make him an even harder puncher, that'd be impressive. But maybe he doesn't even have to. Maybe, you know, even though a collie has that raw force behind his punches, maybe Sugar Hill just gives him, like, teaches him some more tricks of the trade, helps him to set up his punches a bit better. And then he delivers those punches even more regularly than he already does. But you know what? With Lawrence Okolie, I mean, I don't really blame him. Like, if you feel like you're going to be a good fit with Sugar Hill, go for it. But I thought he had a good thing going on with Shane McGuigan. But hey, it's his career. He's going to explore, and if he feels like he needs to move on and freshen things up a bit, hey, it'd be interesting. I'm not sure what kind of technical differences we're going to see. I imagine we'll probably maybe see a collie a bit more upright, a bit more of a higher guard, that kind of thing, using the lead hand, having it a bit higher, a bit more, uh, not as relaxed as the kind of Shane McGuigan style, if that makes sense. But we'll see. He's certainly not going in against any great shakes in David Light, so that's going to be a test of his new, new partnership with Sugar Hill. Benavidez going to bust up Plant, maybe, I don't know. We'll have to see. But interesting fight, very good fight, and you shouldn't let the recent controversy take away from the excitement that some of these other fights can provide. Hatman, he's in the chat and he likes the thumbnail. I'm quite a bit behind these comments, but you know what? What do you guys think of the thumbnail? I whipped it up in a couple of minutes, but I wanted to do something special, get away from the kind of boring standard outmatch boxing live stream thumbs, and bit of clickbait there. Get the punters in. Yeah, Hatman, I don't even know if he's still in the chat, but I couldn't resist. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to make a video on Fury, but I'll do a live stream. Perk me up a little bit. I'm enjoying a glass of Pepsi Max right now. It's Friday, so I thought I'd treat myself during the live stream. Iron Fist. We'll see a collie's true power when he fights men of his size. In my opinion, knocking out smaller men isn't the most impressive display of power. He's definitely 235 pounds on fight night. 235 pounds. I'm not sure. That's quite a bit. That's heavy. I think today he weighed in 14 stone 4, like on the dot. And I get what you're saying. Like, a collie is a big cruiserweight in terms of height, stature, but he's someone who, even though he's quite, did I just say height and stature? I mean height and weight. Gosh, it's been a long day. He's someone who has that very kind of lanky physique, but he has there's like a density to him. Like, he hasn't got very much or a lot of muscle on his frame, but you can tell he's someone who's naturally quite heavy, very heavy-handed as well. So I get what you're talking about. Like, when you're bowling over cruiserweights who are much smaller than you, it's not as impressive. However, if you look at the reaction of how he knocks those guys out, you can tell he's got serious power. And I suspect that if he ever goes up to heavyweight, he will have a puncher's chance, even against the heavyweights. Maybe not all of them, but against any of the heavyweights who have like average chins, I reckon he'd be able to clean them out if he lands. David, the Great White Light, is up there with Tom Not So Little in terms of the worst nicknames I have ever heard for a boxer. Yeah, some nicknames are just terrible. Like, those are like, you get some nicknames and it sounds like someone has asked, like one of these fighters has asked their infant child, what should daddy's nickname be? And they actually run with it. David, the Great White Light, I'm surprised this guy hasn't been cancelled. It's 2023 and any reason to shut someone down, people will take it. So Uh, you know what the political climate's like these days. But I'm not gonna get into that. I don't want to get this demonetized. Yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying Victor's surname because that's gonna get this stream demonetized. The ducking. Yeah, the ducking. Um, hey, that's what it is. Here's here's Sanya rather than here's Johnny. Sorry, I just sipped my drink right into the mic. It's not very polite of me. Um, Pudding Jim 8. A collie needs to move up to heavyweight for big money fights. A collie against White would be spicy for a heavyweight debut. Yeah, that would be very interesting. I don't know if you guys have seen the sparring footage between those two. Very interesting. And it's really, it makes you wonder because there are there's a lot of potential for young fighters coming from London, and Akoli, he could potentially be the best at cruiserweight. I suspect he is. I reckon, not that it's a foregone conclusion, but I reckon he beats Jay Opataya, um, and could go on to be, you know, Badu Jack holding a cruiserweight title is absurd in my opinion. Not the fact that he's won it, but the fact that Badu Jack, cruiserweight champion, can this guy hold on to that belt for any meaningful amount of time if he has like the ambition to fight Opataya and or Lawrence Okoli? Could you imagine that? Badu Jack versus Lawrence Okoli. That would be something else. That would be bizarre. Um, I'd see that as a complete mismatch. So Okoli becoming undisputed cruiserweight champion, I think, is a very realistic possibility. But yeah, is he going to have big money fights along the way? I can't imagine he's getting very much to fight David Light. That is, I just can't get over how much of a poor fight that is. Have you guys seen David Light? If you haven't, have a look. G-Man Boxing says, salute Tatman, we need boxing and Chris. Yeah, we need Henry and Chris, and it would be a full house. I'm massively behind. Massively behind. Let's speed this up. I'm talking too much. I'm telling you, Plant is going to make Benavidez look silly. You know what? Pound for pound, it's good to have you here, by the way, my friend. That wouldn't surprise me. That wouldn't surprise me. I don't think Plant's going to have it all his own way, but I think I'm going for him on points. Iron Fist, I never bet, but I regret not betting my house and Joyce beating Dubois. I was one of the few who picked him to win. Yeah, likewise. I remember talking to Chris in the lead up to that fight, and I was very confident that Joyce was going to win. I didn't know if he was going to win by stoppage, but I just didn't see, like, even now, Dubois is just, I just don't get it. Like, Dubois is so basic. He's got some ability, but he's not this. I never saw him as this bright prospect and, had this massive future ahead of him. I never saw that. So when he was going against Joyce, who someone I've rated for a long time, I was like, nah. Dubois is getting taken to school in this one. Fury versus AJ this year, you watch now. You know what? I wouldn't mind that fight. I still think that's a good fight. I'd rather see Usyk versus Fury, but if AJ if that's the fight that gets made, I don't hate it. Joshua Franklin card, all mismatches very poor. We should have had Cash versus Williams. Wardley needs better opposition than Coffee. Thank you, Jordan. I don't know if you saw my video on the AJ. I did video about the undercard. I said the exact same things. Main event, not exciting, but interesting. The rest of the card, nah, dead. I said the same thing. Cash, just make the Williams fight on that undercard. Why wait any longer? I understand Cash wants to go for his European title shot, but he's going in against a guy who just looks to be a complete pie, like a pudding. No disrespect, because he seems to be like a proven Euro level operator, but stylistically, I just think this is Cash's fight to win. And Wardley, yeah, Why not put Wardley in with Johnny Rice, the guy who beat Coffee? I just think that they probably looked at that and thought, you know what, maybe Johnny Rice is a bit too much for Wardley at this point. So let's go for Coffee, because on paper, Coffee and Johnny Rice are, I guess you could say, evenly matched. Both 6'5", both in their mid-30s. But in terms of ability, Johnny Rice is much better. And he'd probably have a decent shot of beating Wardley. Although I'd probably pick Wardley to win because Wardley's got grit, Um, obviously, he lacks the technique that you'd expect from someone of his background, but he makes up for it with grit, and he'll take the fight by the scruff of the neck if he has to. But yeah, it's a really poor card, and DAZN, Eddie Hearn, and AJ, all of their popularities are just taking quite a hit. So they needed a strong undercard to sell that, given the price hikes and all that. But it's a shame. Callum Redford, if he beats Franklin, yeah, and he probably will. Joseph King, Fury gets stripped by the WBC and demands a lion's share from the champ. Oh, we're not going back there. No lineal champ nonsense. I'm not having that. Pound for pound boxing. Oh, damn it. Sorry about that. My drawstring for my hoodie was actually in my drink. Great. Really, pound for pound, you got 1,300 from Joyce stopping Dubois. Blimey, that's a tasty sum of money. What did you spend that on? Iron Fist says Joshua absolutely needs another good fight after Franklin before considering a championship. Yeah, he could probably go back into championship level, but if he has any hopes of becoming a champion again and being competitive, yeah, you need development fights. Definitely, that is. I'd say that's the truth there. Iron Fist, that's great, mate. What's your place? Yeah, pound for pound, that's a good bet. Yeah, can you go live? I'm not sure about that. Maybe if you're a bit more in the inner circle. I don't recognize your name. I'm not even going to say your name, to be honest, because I don't want to get demonetized. But you know what? If you're on the right side of history, we'll see. AJ fights to his ability. Yeah, it could be comfortable, probably. It really depends. There are a lot of unknowns. Yeah, how good is Franklin really? Does he take it up a notch? Where is AJ? Where is he mentally? What's his style going to be like, if any change at all? Interesting. But yeah, probably a comfortable win for AJ. Pound for pounds, going AJ 8 to 10 rounds knockout. How would people perceive that? If AJ goes 8 or 10 rounds with Franklin, because many people see this as a mismatch and are not happy with this fight. I guess it does depend on how those 8 to 10 rounds look before the knockout. But even then, even if it's AJ all the way, and then he gets to Franklin in those rounds and takes him out, people can say, oh, AJ, he took too long to get Franklin out of there. So we have to wait and find out, I suppose. Outmatch, who wins, Prime Liston or Prime Tyson? You know what? I'd probably just have to go with Tyson. Prime Tyson, the meme. Prime Tyson beats everyone, but yeah, I'd just have to go with Tyson. That's my gut feeling. It's not really a matchup I thought of too tough, but yeah, I'd probably go with Tyson. Dog's Genius. Usyk beats Fury, I promise you. Hey, maybe. If Usyk fights Fury and it's mainly in the center of the ring. I definitely favor Usyk because the size difference plays into Usyk's hands. Yeah, well, that's the thing. I've said many occasions that uh, size goes both ways. Just because you're smaller doesn't make it a disadvantage. It's how you utilize the size. And Usyk against big guys utilizes his size well. He doesn't stand there and try and trade with them and try and out strength and outpower the big guys. No, he uses his natural advantages. Even though when you consider like Usyk is, he's a legit heavyweight. He's in the two teens, 220s, 6'3". He moves like nobody else. It's very, very impressive. Joseph King says, as Hatman famously said, one of his worst spars was against someone significantly smaller than him, a light heavyweight. I also had a similar experience. Yeah, myself included. I remember there was one spar, and this was the spar that I guess it was like the last spar I had before I just packed it in with boxing, and it was against a guy who he was tiny, like he must have been 60 something kilos, and I was only like a few kilos heavier than him at the time, but there was quite a significant size difference between us, and this guy was lighting me up like nobody's business. So it's not always about the bigger guys are uh, they win by default because they're bigger. No, if you have experience fighting bigger guys, that's experience that you know that's very valuable, and you can make it work. Hey, we got Carmine in the house. How you doing, man? Mic check 1 2 1 2. Yeah, always got to do the all right 1 2 1 2. I've now blessed the live chat. Greetings to you, Outmatch. Stay blessed. Okay. Talk about announcing yourself. The man, the myth, the legend, Carmine. Oh yeah, Carmine. That was a smashing impression you did of Apollo Creed. Good stuff, mate. Good stuff. G-Man says the ducking is like nothing I've seen. Yeah, man, trying to gaslight us. Or are you talking about the thumbnail? Yeah, I'm hoping that thumbnail gets some views in. It's a busy one. It's a busy one. We're at 23 people right now. Well chuffed. Carmine says, greetings, Outmatch. That thumbnail is hilarious. You should post it in the chat. Stay blessed. I might just do that. You know what? I will. I'll post it in there afterwards, and then everyone can have it for the gallery. Joseph King, I like Benavidez. I feel like Benavidez will be dropped relatively early. The fight is giving me shades of Kambosos versus Lopez, where one fighter thinks he can go for his opponent like a hot chainsaw through butter. I don't know. Stylistically, I still see how Benavidez wins. I still see it. It's a tough one though. It's a tough one. Like, this is a good matchup, and I've kind of flip-flopped in my mind a bit. I agree though. If Benavidez really does believe that he's just going to walk through Caleb Plant, then maybe he could be in for a rude awakening. Maybe, and not even like Benavidez gets beaten up, but he just gets his head boxed off and doesn't really switch up. Because that's one thing you find is sometimes superior fighters, if they're superior from an athletic or technical point of view, if their mind isn't in the right place where they're not perceiving their opponent as being enough of a threat, then they can just lack arousal. They can not be up for the fight, and then they can just put in like a really flat performance. And to his credit, Caleb Plant, he seems like someone who's always switched on. Like, if you beat him, like, you really deserve credit because he's not someone who slips up much. Like, he seems quite dedicated to his craft, takes it very seriously. and always shows up in shape and ready to rumble. Joe Stunner in the chat, a bit late for this one. Yeah, look, we've been going for nearly an hour. Go on for a little bit longer though, and so you can join in the chat. This was like a spur of the moment kind of live stream. Bit late for this one, but I hope you're doing well. Good, thanks, mate. I'm good. The Fury Usyk farce and the cancellation of Inoue Fulton means this hasn't been a good week for boxing. No, you know what? To be honest, it hasn't really been a great year for boxing so far. And I don't want to sound like a downer, but I think we are going into a little bit of a lull, a little bit of a trough right now. It's not going to last forever though, and there's still fun to be had. But yeah, if you just look back at some of the years we've had previously, we've had some great nights and sometimes even great seasons of boxing where it's just been month after month after month of good, solid events, great main events, that kind of stuff. But yeah, look, the pendulum swings both ways. You got to take the rough with the smooth. Who have I got for Alberto Lopez versus Conlan? You know what, Jordan? I think I might be going with Conlan for that one. I think Alberto Lopez, yeah, he got a good win over Josh Warrington, but he's no Bronco Lara. Good fighter, but I think Conlan, as long as Conlan hasn't shipped like too much damage from that Lee Wood stoppage, it'll be a good fight. But I think this might be his moment. But I do have to watch a little bit more of Lopez to really do him justice. Joe's going for AJ on points. Okay, interesting. How do you see the fight unfolding, across the distance? Which current fighters could you see beating Usyk, or will Father Time only beat Usyk? Bear in mind he's in his 30s now. I think stylistically, out of the current crop, I think it might be someone who's a bit closer in size to Usyk. I don't think Michael Hunter beats Usyk, even though he gave him some problems when they fought in 2017. But maybe, I'm not saying that this guy specifically would beat Usyk, but maybe someone with the style of a Frank Sanchez, because Sanchez is a legit heavyweight, but he moves well, and I feel like he might be able to keep up with Usyk. I could see how Joe Joyce gives Usyk a rough night and like gives him a rough fight that maybe takes a little bit out of him, but I'd still probably pick Usyk to win. Although Joyce in a 12-round fight, that's more opportunity he has to get to Usyk eventually. But Usyk's tough, like AJ went after him in that rematch. Not as much as he could have, but I think people are almost a little bit unrealistic about what they expected from AJ in that rematch, because you have Oleksandr Usyk, who's, he's the smaller guy, but he's darting all over the place, got stamina for days, head movement, hand movement, foot movement, good combinations, cat-like reflexes, great defensive responsibility. So, but someone who has the coordination and speed to keep up with Usyk, that's how someone's going to give him trouble. Because if you look at Usyk, when he fought, if you look at some of his toughest fights, like the Bradis fight, Bradis is a guy who's actually smaller than Usyk, and he did a good job of keeping up the pace of Usyk. Before that, you had the Tubiso Machunu fight, and now Machunu lost that fight and lost it badly in the end because he was getting beaten up by Usyk. But he had some early success, and Tubiso Machunu is like 5'7" or 5'8". He's listed at 5'11". That is a lie. That guy is a garden gnome, but he's a great fighter. Very small, very compact, very sharp. Could keep up with Usyk, and especially with the jab. However, what I will say is, compared to then, Usyk's style has changed quite a bit. And now that's not something that many people think of, because you think, okay, Usyk, Olympic gold medalist, extensive amateur background, cruiserweight world champion, undisputed champion, and now unified heavyweight world champion. His style, he's probably not going to get that much better. But if you look at the evolution from his fights at cruiserweight to his fights at heavyweight, he doesn't fight in the same way. He fights in a much more or an even more dynamic fashion. And I think it's because against those bigger heavyweights, he needs to compensate by using more movement. He's much more active in his guard and his movement, and has really taken it up a notch, I think. Because he was always impressive, but now I think the Joshua first fight, I was just like, wow, what a performance. Joe says, I can only hope history judges Fury deservedly harshly. I don't believe in karma, wishful thinking by another name. Yeah, sometimes. But Fury's legacy deserves to suffer. That's the thing. That's the bit of the predicament. Because Fury's done good things. I don't think you can dispute that. You know, is he even close to being the greatest heavyweights? Hell no. But he's done good things. But yeah, it's like Mayweather. Now Mayweather has a much deeper resume than Tyson Fury, but by a lot of Mayweather's best wins, there's an asterisk. You know, especially in the latter stage of his career, like beating Canelo, great on paper now because you see what Canelo's done, but when you saw that he drained Canelo, like Canelo was already struggling to make 154, and then that fight took place at 152 pounds. There's always an asterisk, like the Maidana fights. Great wins, you know. A lot of people don't rate Maidana, but Maidana was a good fighter. But there was a whole glove scandal. Um, all these small things, they always add up. And when you look at someone's legacy as a whole and you're objectively observing it, it does tarnish it. And Fury's heading in that same way. If you look at all the dishonesty and the ducking, and you know, this is not the first time Fury's ducked someone. It doesn't do much for your legacy. And I think it's quite clear he doesn't really care about legacy. He cares about being undefeated because it gets him money and it massages his ego. That's it. He doesn't care about being undefeated from a legacy perspective. Tank versus Ryan prediction. I'm going with Tank. I don't. Ryan Garcia has ability. He has more ability than people give him credit for, but his mindset just worries me. I don't think Ryan Garcia, like, I've looked to the way he's kind of conducted himself in the presence of Tank, and I don't think Ryan Garcia is as confident as he makes out. I see a little bit of apprehension, a little bit of nervousness in his eyes, and I don't think you can't afford to be nervous against someone like Tank, who Tank is a bit of a bully. You know, he's one of those pound for pound. I think you're probably going to laugh at me when I was calling Tank a hood rat and a roadman and that kind of stuff, but he is. And those kind of guys, they really do see. I mean, most people see fear as a weakness, but they see it as a weakness, and it spurs them on. You know. But yeah, I'm going with Tank, and I just think stylistically he'd probably. I think he'd probably win. Interesting fight, a very good fight. I'm looking forward to that one. Daniel Marriott says, it's pity. I'm a massive Fury fan. I can't deny it's a duck, but he does beat everyone. He's too big and moves too fast. Well, look, if you're a Fury fan, like, fair enough. But you could, don't let your fanaticism get in the way of being objective. I disagree. I don't think he beats everyone. I think Tyson Fury's wins have flattered him a bit. I could be wrong, but I just don't see it. Like, I think Usyk beats Fury, and I think if Fury hangs around long enough, he's going to lose to a few guys if he fights them. Usyk is overrated at heavyweight, though. He's only really beat AJ, and he's average, in your opinion. Okay, we're getting a bit surreal now. I think Dan beats Usyk. He'll do what AJ couldn't. He will force him back, use his jab, let shots off go. It's not difficult to make it. Big man fight. AJ never did. Nah, sorry, Daniel. I disagree with you there, mate. I disagree with you there. Look, if that's your opinion, fair enough, but I don't see it. I think Daniel Dubois is probably inferior in every way to Joshua, maybe other than stamina and potentially chin. Other than that, I think Joshua is just a much better fighter than Daniel Dubois. And I think if Daniel Dubois goes for that Usyk fight, he's going to be in for a rude awakening. But hey, we'll see. Joe Stunner. I think there have been some very good fights so far in 2023, but they've slipped under the radar. Garcia Vidal, Fiero Stella, and Matthias Ponce were all excellent. I'm not going to say that word. All excellent fights. I haven't seen any of those. I've got to put my hands up. But yeah, there's still a lot of fights to enjoy. I think that's a good point to make. It's easy to kind of get down in dumps and doom and gloom, but try and enjoy what's available. Peter Fury once stated that Usyk was born to fight. Trust me, they all know how dangerous the man is. Yeah, this is someone who's boxed for a very long time, believes wholeheartedly in his ability. And now belief isn't always enough, but sometimes it can be the deciding factor. And if you look at the investment that Usyk has put into his career, he didn't have periods of inactivity when Tyson Fury was ballooning up in weight, doing, God knows what out on the lash. Usyk hasn't done that. And Tyson Fury's return after his previous hiatus was very impressive and he deserves credit for it. I know it was still self-inflicted in reality, but the fact that he was grossly out of shape, but then came back and obviously had the fights with Wilder and has returned to the form that he's at now deserves credit. However, I think a lot of people are in denial about how much of a toll that has taken on Tyson Fury's body because they just think that Tyson Fury is just this invincible man who doesn't matter what he puts his body through in the ring and out of it, he's just gonna take it right till the end, right until he's beating everyone and he's the last man standing. I don't see that happening. I think that's wishful thinking. Maybe he proves me wrong. I'm here to be proven wrong. Like, I just want to see the best fight the best. So, we'll see. We'll see. Danik, how well will Rico Verheven do in boxing? To be honest, man, I don't even know who that is. I've seen the surname, but I'm assuming this is a UFC guy. Let me give him a quick Google. Dutch kickboxer. I don't know. To be honest, mate, I can't answer your question. If I gave you an answer, it would be completely uneducated, uninformed. Joe expects Joshua to be tentative in the early going, Franklin pinching a round or two, but I see if AJ can settle down and start letting his hands go, he can do enough to win most of the rounds. Yeah, okay. I see that. I just think that AJ probably gets the time in eventually and then catches Franklin. Franklin's tough though, and I think he's, he could be slippery, but it depends if AJ wants to make a point. That's what I think. But yeah, I see where you're coming from, Joe. All right, Daniel. Fury's just too big and fast, mate. He's 6'9", 290 pounds, and moves incredibly well. How do you beat that? I'm sure he will go on and beat everyone. I don't know why he ducked Usyk. All right. Well, Daniel, everything you've said so far, I've heard it a trillion times over. That is the rationale when you ask them, okay, why do you think Tyson Fury's the best? They say he's too big, he's too fast. He's 6'9", he weighs this amount, he moves so well. But those characteristics, if you want to call them that, in and of themselves, that's not enough to win a fight because the problem with Tyson Fury is, yes, he's a great fighter, but how many styles has he come up against? Like, serious question. He came up against Klitschko. Now, Klitschko, I'm not going to dispute, fantastic fighter, definitely up there in, one of the all-time great heavyweights, but had a very particular style. And not only a style, but a mindset that Fury was very much able to manipulate and have his own way. we all know that Vlad isn't a risk taker. You know, I don't know if Iron Fist is still in the chat, but I'm sure even he will agree. Like, Vlad wasn't the mentally toughest, the toughest mentally, and had a very particular style. And that's the thing about styles is, you know, they make fights. If you look at the style of Wilder, once again, fantastic fighter, massive puncher, but a very particular style. You look at the style of Dylan White, very particular style. There's nothing in those fights, or I don't see anything like massively convincing to say, okay, right, that's it. You know, Tyson Fury's dealt with those three. He's got the division on lock. I just don't see it. There are too many diverse styles, too many different talents in the heavyweight division that I think do have Tyson Fury's number. At the end of the day, like, styles make fights. I 100% agree with Hatman when he says there's no such thing as an invincible fighter. And now I must, you know, Tyson Fury's been in some sticky situations in his career, and to his credit, he has a tremendous, absolutely tremendous power of recovery to take some of the punches he's taken and go down, be flat on his back and get up and win a fight. I'm not going to hold it against him. Fantastic, like elite level stuff. But once again, how many times can you do that? And secondly, what happens when you're in with a guy who you can't land on, you can't pin down, and he's pinging you, bam, 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 moving off, and all of a sudden that cut opens. You know, the cut that was opened by Otto Wallin. All of a sudden, yeah, Fury's got a massive chin, but he's getting tagged and he's bleeding out all over the place. All of a sudden, the referee jumps in the ring. Sorry, nah, doctor stopped it. These are all possibilities that could very well happen. And considering that, I just don't see how Tyson Fury, yeah, the big guy, moves well, 6'9". You know, it's not that difficult to look like you move well when you're in the ring against Deontay Wilder, the man who at times looks like Bambi on ice. You know, I'm not trying to take away from it, but that's just the reality. David Petro Music. Usyk would annihilate Daniel Dubois easily. It'll be embarrassing for Dubois. Yeah, I reckon so. I reckon that's the case. I'm not even entirely sure if that fight happens. I reckon that Frank Warren would rather put Joyce in first with Usyk. Daniel, yeah, exactly, Joseph. Daniel has more confidence in Tyson Fury than Tyson Fury has in Tyson Fury. Definitely. Excuse me. Shane Costello. Who would you realistically like to see Fury fight next? Well, realistically, I'd like to see him fight Usyk next. And I say that because, yeah, the fight has obviously just fallen through, but there's no reason why it should have outside of someone ducking. So it's a realistic fight to make, but Tyson Fury doesn't want it. That's very clear. Next best thing, Anthony Joshua, assuming that Anthony Joshua looks good. Or Joe Joyce, or actually, no, I'll leave it there. I can't think of anyone else right now. Or, you know what? Wild card, Michael Hunter. I think that's a good fight. I think that's a very competitive fight. That gives me like shades of Tyson Fury versus Steve Cunningham. I think that'd be a good fight. Do you think Michael Hunter is going to rejuvenate his career under Klimas? You know what? Klimas, he seems to be a good manager. Like a lot of the guys under him, they've had good careers, they've had good opportunities, and if they're good enough, they really do get a decent claim, a decent stake in their divisions. I'm not sure though. Michael Hunter, he's kind of in the who needs him club because he's a guy who can turn you over if you're not on your P's and Q's. But he doesn't really bring anything to the table. He doesn't have a massive profile, doesn't have any belts. I don't know what his ranking's like right now. So I'm not sure. I can't say. Iron Fist, Vlad only took risks when he had to, and he did display toughness in certain fights. He should have certainly done more against Fury, and he kind of did in the 12th, which he won. I'd love to see the rematch. Versus Joshua, he fought like a lion and regained his hunger. You can always count on Iron Fist to fly the Vlad flag high. But no, I agree. Vlad, he just wasn't as consistent as you like from an elite level fighter. I 100% agree. In the Joshua fight, I was, even though he lost that Joshua fight, I wanted him to stay retired because it was a loss, but he finished like a warrior. In that fight, he really did leave it all in the ring. I was massively impressed with Klitschko's heart and his effort. He just, to really be up against it against, Joshua inexperienced, but at that time Joshua was hungry. And the old dog in Vlad, he tried his best. Regarding the Fury fight, Vlad went for it, but he also tried to foul Fury quite blatantly. And that, you could call that a will to win, a desire to win by any means, but no, that's cheating. And that, I didn't like that. I don't think that showed much heart. And, that fight wasn't fought at a blistering pace. It was actually quite a boring fight. It was exciting at the time. You think Fury's done it. He's freed up the division. He's ended the Klitschko era. We're on to bigger and better things now. But that fight is a fight he should have taken risks much earlier, as you say. But yeah, fighters, they're not perfect. They're not cheat codes. They all have weaknesses. All right, Daniel, you're still on it. You're still on it. Klitschko and Wilder, for me, proved it. All 2 long champions he ended. He'll push back Usyk and beat him just like he did against Steven. Steven. Oh, you're talking to Steven. He's proved it. But we'll just have to. Yeah, I think we're going to have to agree to disagree. Look, I like that we can keep it respectful. Daniel, I appreciate that. But that logic doesn't run with me. And you'll probably find that it doesn't run with a lot of people. It's just, it's a bit Tyson Fury fanboy boxing normie kind of talk, because Klitschko and Wilder fight nothing like Oleksandr. They fight nothing like any of the other guys at heavyweight. The styles are just too varied. And you want to talk about long-time champions. Yeah, okay, Klitschko, established long-time champion. But Wilder had one of the easiest title runs I've ever witnessed at heavyweight. It wasn't even funny. Like the opponents that Wilder was getting away with. Like, if you're going to criticize Joshua for fighting Molina and Dominic Brazil, you got to criticize Wilder as well. But then when you factor in that those were some of the better names on Wilder's resume, obviously he fought Ortiz, but how good is Ortiz really? Honestly, how good is Ortiz really? The highlight of his career was beating Bryant Jennings in 2015. That is his claim to fame. Like, I'm not even trying to take sides. I'm just saying how it is. So Wilder, great puncher, protected champion, and that's who Tyson Fury beat. Tyson Fury deserves credit for it, but doesn't go on to prove that he's going to clean out the division. But hey, look, we're keeping it respectful. That's what's most important to me. Yeah, Shane, you like those fights? I think those are probably the best ones. The kind of consolation prize, if you will. Jasmine, still in the chat. I'm sorry, I can't help but laugh what that Daniel was saying. That's all I'm going to say. It's just rubbish. Hey, yeah, look, we're all entitled to our opinion, and let's leave it at that before it turns into a Royal Rumble. Jamie Collier, why is Joyce still with Frank? He's clearly sided with Dubois over Joyce when they fought, and salty when he lost. Then he has 2 fights against nobodies, nearly loses and gets the #1 contender spot. Hey, you know what? You're gonna have to ask. Joyce that. maybe Joyce feels like there's nowhere he can really go. And now I don't know if that's actually the case, but it's all about perception. Maybe he sees, I'm not sure about Eddie Hearn DAZN because of his rough time he's been having recently. Sky maybe aren't the entity that they could potentially be in a few months or years' time. So maybe it's just best to stay with Frank, because ultimately, if Frank, because Joyce is getting good fights. Yeah, he's been getting decent opportunities. Yeah, he hasn't had a title shot so yet, but he's under the same promotional banner as Tyson Fury. There's a likelihood that fight could be made, or it's certainly easier to be made, or easier to make rather. And maybe, I don't know, it's like the best of a bad bunch in Joyce's eyes. I don't know. But Joe said Warren bought Joyce's contract from his previous promoter for 100K. I don't think I knew that. Interesting. But, that's, to be honest, that's the business side of boxing. I don't really focus on it too much. But, looking at Joyce, he's active. He's fighting decent guys. The Zhang fight's coming up in a couple of weeks. That's a brilliant fight. I think that's a great fight. I expect Joyce to win, but it's a good, Joyce's career has really been quite an entertaining ride so far with some decent opposition. So can you complain that much? I understand the bias that Warren clearly has, but hey, if Joyce is winning and he's fighting and he's getting paid, is he going to have that much of a problem? I don't know. But yeah, that's probably a question for Joyce himself. Jasmine says, by the way, Outmatch, I mentioned that Usyk and Joyce should. Yeah, I remember that comment. It was way earlier. All right, peeps. We have been going for an hour and 21. And hold on. Shane, you can't ask me that. You can't. I know you're trying to stir the pot here. I'm not gonna answer that. So Frankie Boy has 2 of his fighters as mandatories for Usyk. Not Nostradamus, but I did keep in mind the possibility of Frank wishing to roll the dice with himself to fight Fury. Hey, yeah, there's a lot of a lot of options for Frank, if you want to be cynical. Danik, did any of the Olympia middleweights go pro in? I don't know any of them, to be honest, so I can't say. Yeah, I see you, Shane. I see you trying it. But look, people, I really appreciate you joining me on this stream. It's been a busy one. I think this has been the most packed stream I've had since I started this channel. So I really appreciate it. I think we've had a few new people, certainly in the stream. I don't know if you guys haven't subscribed to the channel. If you haven't, please do so. I try to entertain as best I can. I feel like there's going to be something for everything on this channel. But yeah, you know what, guys? It's been a fun hour and 20 minutes. It's really perked me up, and I hope it's perked you guys up as well. Because this is a bit of a frustrating time, but you know what? We can still have a laugh. We can still enjoy each other's company in the fights coming up. So, thank you, people. I'll catch you on the next one, and have a good weekend.